when you're setting an intention, it's like you're giving clear direction to God, the universe, that this is what I want. And if you're not clearly stating what you want and being very detailed about it, how can then what you want find you? Hey friends, it's your girl Tiff, and you're listening to That's Real, a podcast where we learn and discover more about ourselves through stories, life lessons, experiences. So if you hear something that resonates with you and makes you say, that's real, please share with a friend, family member on Instagram and tag me at It's Tiffanie Davis. And also you can listen or watch this podcast. So it is available on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Tiffanie Davis. Or if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can show me some love by leaving a 5-star rating and review. I am so happy that you're here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and let's dive into this episode. Hey friends, hey, and welcome back to the podcast. And also, happy freaking New Year. We are officially in 2024. I'm honestly feeling really good about this year. I'm feeling really, really good about it. But I'm going to kind of just dive right into today's topic, which is basically around the importance of setting an intention. And I thought that it would be great to kick off the new year with this, as, you know, we're all in goal setting mode, you know, figuring out what we want to accomplish for this year. And I've come to realize that when you don't have a clear intention for what you want to accomplish, it can be really hard to achieve what it is that you want. And I'm going to share with you guys a few examples of how I've seen just intention setting work its magic in my life in 2 different situations that honestly, like every time I think about it, I'm just like, wow, like this is literally wild. But I do think that intention setting, in addition to goal setting, is really important for us to think about. And not even just, you know, with the new year, but anytime we're gearing up for a new beginning. This is also something that could be great to do around your birthday, or just anytime you're gearing up for a big life change. I think it's so powerful and crucial to set intentions. So that's really what I want to chat through in today's episode. So now diving right into it. So this first exercise that I'm going to share with you guys, it's something that I personally do a lot on my birthday. And it's something that I encourage a lot of my friends to do on their birthday as well. And I just thought it was like perfect to kind of kick off the new year with too. So I love to do this exercise where I basically think about, you know, for whatever new beginning I'm about to enter, what would I title that chapter of my life? And I let that be the intention of that chapter. So for example, this past year on my birthday, you know, as I was entering a new year, I decided that that new chapter of my life, that, you know, next year of my life, was going to be titled expansion. So expansion is the intention that I'm holding for this new year of my life, in my birthday cycle, I should say. So I kind of have a birthday intention, which I love to do because it's so personal to me. And then what I'm doing this year is having also an overarching New Year's intention. And when you're titling this new chapter of your life, when you're setting this intention, it's kind of something that you want to set and not really think too much about it after. You know, it's not something that you're kind of like, okay, like in every single thing I do, I need to expand. It's something that you just kind of let be the overarching theme of your year or your new chapter and let it go. And now that I think about it, I've honestly already started to see how, you know, this expansion intention that I set has already started to play out in my life. Like, for example, I launched a podcast. And for me, you know, that was expanding into, you know, a new area of content creation, because before that, I was mainly just on YouTube. Like, YouTube was my biggest platform. And, you know, yes, I'm also on Instagram and have been kind of on and off TikTok, but YouTube was my main thing. So what does that look like for you? If you were to title this new year, what would you title it? And actually drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. But for me, I really think it's going to be a lot about ease and flow and not forcing things, not feeling like I have to control situations, but just letting things play out naturally. It's definitely going to be me applying the law of least effort, which I talked a lot about in my last podcast episode. So if you didn't watch that last podcast episode, make sure to watch or listen to it. But that's what I'm feeling is going to be the theme of my year, because I'm just at a place where, I feel like every year it's like I'm constantly trying so hard to do something to the point where I'm driving myself crazy. And I mean, honestly, even when I think about me launching this podcast, like I tried as much as possible to do it with ease and flow, but the first week that I launched it, I damn near burned myself out. And even my friends were like, "Are you good, girl? Like, we're worried about you." Like, it was just not the way that I want to be operating, especially when it comes to things that bring me joy, like creating content. And I also want to dive into, taking it a step further and how you can set clear intentions for, different projects that you're working on or different things that you want to accomplish this year. Because I feel like it's one thing to kind of have a very broad intention for your year, but I think it's another thing to have a clear intention for, things that you really want to accomplish. And it's just wild. Like I've seen again in my life how when I set super clear intentions for things that I really wanted to accomplish, that they came to me and pretty quickly. So I'm going to jump into those stories in a second. But another thing that I wanted to share was this year, my goal is to really understand, what seed was planted in me that I'm supposed to help come to fruition, that I'm supposed to realize. Because I'm such a firm believer that every single one of us has a seed planted within us, that if we see it to fruition, it allows us to do what we were truly meant to do in this world. It's almost like I see all of us as a huge team, and each of us have different roles that we need to play in order for us as a collective to truly thrive. Although some of us may have similar qualities and whatnot, and may be good at similar things, I don't think that any one of us can do something the same exact way that another person can. So it's kind of like the way I think about it is it's like these gifts that have been planted within us are things that we do in a specific way as our individual self that will contribute again to the larger collective. That's kind of how I think about it. And I really want to spend this year just figuring out, what that is for me. Like, what is my thing? What was I truly sent here to do? I do feel like every single year I'm getting closer and closer to it. But I also just think as we grow and evolve, I think that we get, certain nudges of, what we were truly sent here to do. And I actually want to do another episode on, how do you figure out what that is? How do you figure out what you were truly sent to do and what was part of your human design? Because, over the years, I've talked to a lot of like master intuitives and whatnot. You guys know I'm super into this stuff, and I've gotten a lot of great tips around how to kind of uncover exactly what that is that I would love to share with you guys. But that really is my goal for this year, to figure out that thing that I'm sent here to do and that I'll truly thrive in. But now just moving into, the importance of setting an intention to accomplish maybe some of those things that you want to accomplish this year and why it's important. Because I feel like some of you guys might be like, okay, like I know about intention setting, but is it really that important? Does it really work? Yes, it does. And I have a few stories to prove it. But first, when it comes to setting an intention for, again, those things that you want to achieve, and I actually wrote this down, I've come to realize and was also taught by my lovely osteopath that it boils down to a few different things. Number one, understanding the qualities of the thing that it is that you want. So not just focusing on, the actual physical thing that you want, but focusing on, what qualities does that specific thing embody? And I'm going to give you a few examples of this in a second. And then number 2, embodying those qualities the best you can in the moment. Because again, you guys know I've said this so many times probably on this podcast already, that when you can truly embody all that you want, that's what brings it closer to you. Number 3, knowing that it's on its way. And this is something that I also talked about on my last podcast, just the importance of being neutral to all that you want and being confident that it's on its way is a really big one when it comes to getting what you want. And then I also added this one as number 4, just feeling grateful for all that you already have. Because again, we don't want to approach those things with I want, because that can push it further away because you're basically showing that you don't already have it. And God, the universe, just loves to mirror back what it is that we're putting out. So just feeling super grateful for all that it is that we have, and even feeling grateful for that thing that we want, acting as if it's already ours is a big one too. So I would say in a nutshell, that's kind of how this intention setting for, something more specific that you might want works. I'm telling you guys, this method gets the job done. So I would say the very first time that I saw this work in my favor was so this was 2022 when I had just recently moved back to the United States from Paris. And I knew that a lot career-wise was going to change for me because up until that point, I had basically built my career around living in Paris. Everything from my YouTube channel to the classes and courses that I put out were all around living in Paris. So I knew that that was going to change. And I knew that I was going to need a job. And so my first approach to finding a job was crafting my resume as best I could and just putting it out there to everyone and anyone. And of course, I had an idea of the type of job that I wanted. Like I knew that I wanted to work in social media, but I was just applying to everything. I was on every single website that I thought could get me closer to finding this job that I wanted. But I'll tell you this, nothing was working. And I did that for about a month or so, I would say, or honestly, even longer than that, because I had started looking for a job when I was in Paris. So I had been looking for a couple months, but I reached out to my osteopath and was like, oh my God, I'm trying so hard to find a job. And I know I have a super competitive background. And and not to say that you need a super competitive background for this to work, but I knew that, I had a lot to bring to the table. And I was just like, I'm struggling. What do I need to do? This has been so difficult for me. And she responded back to me like, Tiff, have you set an intention for the job that you want? So I paused my search, went back to the drawing board, and decided to set a very clear intention for the job that I wanted. Starting with number 1 on the list that I shared with you, figuring out what qualities I wanted in my next job. And a few of those qualities involved me figuring out, the qualities of the work environment of my future job, the work culture, also the job function. But then I also went above and beyond and thought about just how did I want to truly feel in that job? What did those qualities look like? For example, I really wanted to be valued for who I was, not just the skills that I brought to the table, but who I was as a person and what I genuinely love to do. I really wanted to be valued for that. And another big quality for me was, I really wanted to have energy, just the energy to not only perform the job itself, but to keep up with my side hustle, continue to, build and evolve and develop my personal brand. Then, of course, setting an intention for salary. So these are just a few of the qualities that I use to set a clear intention for, my new job. And then I focused on embodying it. I focused on, feeling and knowing that it was on its way. And what's so interesting is that after I set this intention, after I focused on those qualities that I truly wanted in my next job, the very next day, the recruiter for the job that I now have emailed me to set up an interview. You really cannot make this up. And she was just actually one of a few recruiters that had reached out to me the next day for jobs that felt truly aligned for me. So you might also wonder, once I set the intention for that thing that I want and opportunities start coming in, how do I know which one is highest aligned for me? So I have another little story that kind of plays into this too. So once the opportunities started rolling in, once I started getting interviews and whatnot, I paid very close attention to how I felt in the interviews. And I could easily see what was meant for me and what wasn't. So I'll give you an example of this. So at the time I was interviewing for the job that I currently have, I was also in the process of interviewing for another job. And they were both the same exact title. They were both director of social roles. So the first interview, logged on, was really excited to meet the hiring manager and whatnot, but I could feel this tension. And what I was reading from the interviewer was she was stressed, she was anxious, she was on edge. And Tiff's nervous system was not having it because it in turn started to make me feel a little bit anxious and me feel a little bit just on edge, I guess you could say. It was really not a good feeling versus my interview for the second job and the job that I now have. I just vibed really well with everyone that I interviewed with. And I had 3 interviews, I think, in a matter of a week. The process was super fast and it honestly just flowed. I got along really well with the hiring manager and other people on the team. I was really excited to share my accomplishments and what I had worked on in the past. I just felt a lot more confident and I definitely didn't feel as anxious as I did with the first interviewer. And I gotta tell you, about a week or 2 later, was it a week or 2 weeks? It was really quick. I wanna say like a week later, or honestly, it could have been that same week, I got the call back that I got the job. But I really wanted to share this part of the story because in both of those instances, like although they were 2 great opportunities, you can totally tell, which one was more aligned for me, just based off of the energy and how the interview flowed. And I also think that that's just a really good tip for all of you. If you are someone who is looking for a new job, when you're interviewing, pay attention to the energy of the interview. Not just the interview and not just, the energy of the interviewer, but check in with yourself and see how you feel. Because I'm telling you, the last thing that you want to do is find yourself in a role that just does not feel good to you. So yeah, that's just one instance where I saw how, setting an intention worked its magic in my life. And then the second story I have for you guys is around me manifesting the apartment that I now live in. So friends, my move to LA was a long time coming. Like I knew once I left Paris that I was getting nudges to move to LA, but I didn't really know much about LA. I had honestly only been here once in my entire life before I had taken that month-long trip to kind of explore and get to know it a little bit more. But I really didn't know what to expect when it came to apartment hunting. Ugh, guys, I'm so mad. My nail just literally ripped off. That hurt so bad. Ugh. But anyways, so when it came to me setting an intention for my new apartment in LA, a few of the qualities that I focused on. So number 1, how I wanted to feel inside my apartment. And for me, I knew that I wanted to feel creative, especially because I knew it was a space that I was going to be filming and recording a lot of content in. But I also knew that it was a space that I truly wanted to feel grounded in. And I also wanted it to feel open and not, closed off or closed in. That was really important to me. I also thought about the community. I wanted it to be diverse and welcoming. I even focused on the qualities of the surrounding area. I wanted it to feel safe. And above and beyond that, I also thought about, of course, monthly rent, number of rooms, amenities, some of the typical things that you'd put into an apartment search. So looking at all of this as a whole, the more standard things that you would look for in an apartment to, how I wanted to feel and those qualities were how I set that intention. And then again, I focused on embodying those, just having that vision of me being in my apartment and feeling all of these feelings and knowing that it's on its way and feeling grateful for what was to come. So then I booked another trip to LA for 2 weeks to find an apartment. And I told myself that within these 2 weeks, or was it 10 days? It was 10 days or 2 weeks. And I told myself that within this time frame, I was going to find my apartment. And the goal was to move to LA in the beginning of the next year. So came to LA and looked at so many apartments. I must have looked at 15, maybe even more apartments. Yo, girl was on the move. But when I walked into this apartment and, oh my God, I kind of have butterflies even just thinking about this. When I walked into this apartment, I was like, wait, I really like this space. It just felt like all of those qualities that I set an intention for. Even after viewing and seeing this apartment a few times, I still wasn't 1,000% sure if it was the apartment for me. And I think it's because, again, this was going to be another huge life change for me. So what did I do? And this is another thing you can do if you're, again, unsure of if that opportunity that's coming to you after you set your intention is right for you, is you can ask for confirmation. And that's exactly what I did. I asked for confirmation and I received it. So listen to this. So this happened literally the night before I was going back to Boston after my visit to LA to look for apartments. And I was driving around in my rental car because I wanted to drive around the area one more time just to make sure I felt comfortable with it. And as I was driving around, I just said a quick little prayer. So for me, I pray to God. For you, it could look different. Do it in whatever way feels good and natural for you. But for me, I said a prayer and I was just like, God, if this apartment is truly for me, please send me a sign. And please make it clear as day that this is what it's meant for, because you know I be missing things. So I sent that prayer up and started driving around the neighborhood. And what happened next, guys, I'm literally still shook that this happened. So I'm driving around and I get super thirsty, so decide to go to a grocery store to just grab a drink. And I think I got a few other things too, like a snack or something. So I'm checking out at the grocery store. I ring up all my items and I look at the total, so the dollar amount that my items came to. And the total that it came to was the exact, not even one number off. It was the exact address number of the apartment that I was looking to move into. Like, you literally cannot make this up. And I just knew in that moment that that was God telling me that place is for you. And I thanked God for the sign and I applied for that apartment. And in January of 2023, I moved into it. So I'm telling you guys, intention setting is powerful. It works. It's important, especially when it comes to you accomplishing those things that you want to accomplish. Because like I said in one of my earlier stories, when I was trying to find a job just without an intention, it literally wasn't working. It was almost like God in the universe was like, okay, you're putting your resume out here, but we don't know what you want. You know what? I think that that's what it is. And I think that that's something I should have mentioned earlier, that when you're setting an intention, it's like you're giving clear direction to God, the universe, that this is what I want. And if you're not clearly stating what you want and being very detailed about it, how can then what you want find you? Food for thought, friends, food for thought. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much all for me. I just really wanted to share that method with you because, again, it has worked its magic through my life multiple times. And it's definitely something that I personally am going to continue to use in my life. And I hope that you use it in yours. And if you do use it and you do achieve that thing that you're setting an intention for, please let me know. I love a good story time. I love a good testimonial. And who knows, maybe I'll share it here on the podcast. So friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And I truly hope that you achieve all that you want in 2024 and beyond. Chat with you in the next episode. Bye.